Oh, all right, great. Well, thank you for coming here, and thanks to Stephan for being with us. I'll be also brief because there are a lot of things that that Stephan can tell you about his work and the way he makes movies and then the entire process. But first of all, Stephan Komandarev is one of the leading Bulgarian movie directors, and I have to tell you, you know, as a Bulgarian myself, um, I for a long time I was not a fan of Bulgarian cinema, and when I watched the movies of Stefan, though, something suddenly clicked. And what was the huge difference to me in his work is that um, a lot of movie directors or artists tend these days, you know, to do work um, that's institutionalized, or you know, buzzwords, things that or to do work about environments they don't know. But Stefan is one of those directors who intimately knows his characters. He knows what he's talking about. He knows there is a great authenticity to his work, which I think in the final run makes the difference between great art and mediocre art. Is that you really know what you're talking about. You know your material. You know your characters, and a lot of Stefan's characters, a lot of his movies are about the last 30 years of transition after the end of the communist regime in 1989. And especially those people who have fallen through the cracks, those people who have been left behind, who have been marginalized, who live either in depopulated villages or they live in rundown neighborhoods. People who others don't really notice: policemen, taxi drivers, people who barely make a living in some villages, like let's say you know, truck drivers and so on. Um, and um, and so there is great concern about, you know, sort of for people who are left behind. And Stephan Komandarev is really a social filmmaker, but also he's, you know, his movies and his characters are very complex. Oftentimes the difference between victim and victimizer blurs. Oftentimes the greatest tragedy is that people who are victims of an economic system oftentimes are forced by that system to participate in that violence. And so there is great complexity of human character in his movies. But also, you know, despite the bleak vision, there's also a lot of humor, even though it's dark humor. Stefan will talk about the way he makes movies, the way he goes about developing the scripts, the way he goes about you know, training the actors, how he works with actors. And I think that's a very hands-on approach, which will be very useful for all of us here. So without further ado, I give you Stephan Komandarev.
Hello. So it's very complicated task to talk in how much 1 hour and something about what is to be a filmmaker and how I do my films, but I will do my best. Started already. Okay, now it's better. Super. But I will start from the beginning. Of course, if you have questions, you can ask me all the time. So I was a doctor. This was my first profession. And I'm really happy that I spent 11 years in my life in the medical field, because somehow to become a filmmaker, it's good to have a good approach to the reality. So I spent 6 years during the period when I was student of medicine in Bulgaria. To become a doctor, general doctor, you must spend 6 years. I was working also in caregiver or sanitar, как се казва, nurse in the psychiatry clinic in Sofia. From the very first beginning, when I was a student of medicine, it was clear that I will not become a gynecologist or internalist, so I was interested by the psychiatry. And after I worked 5 years in the child psychiatry clinic, so it was somehow a period that gave me a lot of experience about the dark side of the life. It's something that is also very real, existing parallel with our life, with our balloons. But it was somehow very useful for me all this period. Of course, I did many additional educations like psychoanalysis, group. I have a diploma for a group therapist. It was 2 years education and system therapy, etc. So I'm not using this when I'm making my films, but somehow this gave me a good experience. And one day I was working in our child psychiatry clinic in Sofia. It was in the middle of the 90s, and we received some donation from some European program, 2 SVHS cameras, one small editing table, and a video magnetophone. And the head of the clinic called us, all the doctors, and said, now we have this equipment. The basic idea is to shoot sessions with the psychotherapeutic session with the patients, of course hiding their identity, and to edit this material in order to use with the students. And she asked the head of the clinic, she asked us who will take of all this equipment. And you can imagine all the doctors, we started to look our shoes because nobody of us wanted to do something additional. And in this moment she said, Stephan, you are the youngest doctor, so you take care of this equipment. So I started to work, I started to shoot, I started to take the camera with me, one of these 2 cameras with me during the weekends to shoot some small things with the friends, to stay during the week in the night in the psychiatry and to edit this material. So slowly by slowly I was infected by this, let's say, virus of the cinema. And I took the decision to try to go from medicine to cinema. Because I liked the process. I liked the magic when you have something in your head to invent it, to shoot it, at the moment when this reality start to live in the editing room. And I went to the film university. Of course, many friends started to joke with me that I left the psychiatry because there is a lot of crazy people there. And I went to the cinema where the crazy people are everywhere. But this just happened. So the starting point for any filmmaking activity from my point of view, and this is the first thing that I'm telling to all my students, because I'm also teaching film directing in the New Bulgarian University in Sofia. What are the most good way to become a filmmaker? And the number 1 point is to shoot. To shoot all the time, to make a lot of mistake, to be angry about this mistake, to shoot after every short movie, to shoot another short movie, to make different kind of mistakes. But this is the main way to use to learn what is filmmaking. Like we said, very often to learn filmmaking is something that you learn with your skin. And I'm telling to my students that if they don't come to my lectures because they are in shooting period, I will be the most happy teacher in the world, because you cannot teach filmmaking in the class, in the university. You can teach this only via this way, making your own films. So I was happy with the university because we were a group of crazy, very enthusiastic people who was a lot. We were all a lot of helping each other. Today I'm doing my short film. All my co-students, they are helping to make my film. The next week we are doing the film of one other colleague. So we created something like a practice to have every one of us, and this was our idea. It was not from our professor, to have every month at least one new film, short film, for every one of us. There was a concurrence between us. This was very healthy, this concurrence, who will do the best movie. But this is the practice to learn what is filmmaking. So the first thing is to shoot a lot. The second thing, from my point of view, that I started to do a lot even before, when I was in school, when I was in the medical academy, is to watch a lot of films. And to watch, I had, when I was a student, I have this like a rule to watch at least 5-7 short films per day, or at least 2 feature films per day. This was the minimum. And because when you watch a film, the first time you watch the film like a viewer. You are you are part of the movie, including emotionally, etc. But if this film is good, if this film is something, there is something really serious in this movie, is from filmmaking point of view, it's good to watch every good film. In my case, I can say that I have films that I saw 40 times. Because the first time you watch like a viewer, the second also like a viewer, but from the third time you start to watch the editing, the acting, the work of the director of the photography. With every new watch you do something like a dissection of the movie. So this is the second thing that is very important, to watch quality movie, to watch them many times, to do analysis of all the elements of the film. This is also your way to create your cinematic culture and to learn the cinematic language. The third point that I also discovered when I was a student, this was something that was really very useful for me, to find the shooting script of important movie, to read the shooting script, and after immediately to watch the film, and to compare how exactly this director translated this text, because this is text, to the language of the cinema. Because again and again, the most important thing is to learn, is like learning a new language, to learn the language of the cinema. And this was really very helpful for me to read the shooting script. It's very important to say the shooting script, because very often you can find in internet the script of one of many movies that the script is adapted after the end of the shooting. Somehow the script is adapted to be like the movie. But if you look for shooting script, you can see how many episodes were cut during the editing, what they change, what they transform, etc. So read the shooting script and compare the shooting script with the final movie. The next thing that was really very helpful for me when I was a student, there was in Bulgaria, but I suppose everywhere, there was one editing house called Colibri, and they published really around 100 books, autobiographical books of big directors, important director. So it's very useful to enter in the skin of Miloš Forman, to enter in the body of Steven Spielberg, to see that behind the facade of this big director there is also the human identity with all the dubs, with all the difficult moments in their career, how they talk, how they create every concrete movie. So for me, reading all these books, but not just reading, my way of reading is with the pen, with this, with putting notes, etc. And really a lot of things in the filmmaking I learned from these books. Here I will do a small jump. When I prepared the shooting of the film that we showed yesterday in Ljubljana, The World is Big and Salvation Lurks Around the Corner, I asked my producers of the movie in this time that I want to make the editing of the movie during the shooting. And for them this was really very strange, how it's possible to do editing of the movie during the shooting. And they asked me why. And I told them I wrote about this in the books, because Spielberg said that he is doing this. Almodovar said that he is doing this, that he is doing the editing, doing the shooting. So I told them I read this in some books, and they told me, you read a lot of books. But finally they agreed, and this was something that was very useful, and I took also from these books. So this was also some very important part of the learning how to become a filmmaker, and very useful. So this was the period of my when I was a student. Maybe now it's the moment to show this. I will show you a short movie. It's five minutes long. It was made on 35 millimeters in 97, maybe. Yeah, 1997. Of course, the Film University lost the copy. So the only thing that I can show you is from VHS tape. But give you the idea what we did when we were a student. So the basic thing is here that there is no dialogue. And this is something that also I'm trying to ask my students to make at least the first 2 years of their education, to make films without dialogue. Because somehow it's much better for them to learn the language of the cinema, not the language of the dialogue and the literature. They must learn the cinematic way of making films, with telling the story through the vision, to the action on the movie. And here maybe is the moment to say this, something that I really love, a law of cinema that Alfred Hitchcock, of course. This is something that I learned from the books, that that they told me that you read a lot of books. But Hitchcock said that there is one very important law of the cinema. Everything that is set in one movie, instead of being shown by action, is lost to the audience. So try the first 2 years to learn to tell stories without the dialogue. Of course, later when I started to do my feature film, of course, we put dialogue and everything. But always we are trying to have less and less dialogue. So this movie is without any dialogue and is just action, and sorry for the bad quality. So let's go because we have 1 hour. I want to show you 2 other short parts of my movie. My movie. So I become this film I did on my second year of education in the university, and somehow this film was very successful on the level of student festivals. And this is also one very important reason why everyone who wants to become a filmmaker must shoot film after film. First, to learn the cinematic language. Second, to go to student film festivals. Not because of the festivals, the party, etc. Of course, this is also very important part. But mainly to see what your colleagues from the entire world they are doing. To be in concurrence with the real world. Because Bulgaria, like Slovenia, is a small country. So we must go out of our small countries and to see what is happening in the world. So I become a filmmaker. I finished my education, and I started to prepare my films, my feature films. Of course, for first, second film, it's a huge disaster to find money to finance the project. It takes a long period. Of course, we did in '99 my first feature film that was something without no budget and low budget, but somehow we succeeded, and the film was part of Berlinale, the forum program. After I started to work on my second film, The World is Big and Salvation Lurks Around the Corner. But it was expensive film, and it took me 8 years. So the question is, what to do during these 8 years of waiting for financing. And many of my co-students and friends, they did 2 important mistakes that I want to share with you, because I think that they are very useful. Very important mistake. The first mistake was, in order to survive, they started to work as assistant directors. Don't do this. Because when you work as an assistant director, the work of the assistant director is the total opposite of the work of the director. So you will forget what is to be a director. You will learn completely new profession that is in general not bad, but you will lose your time. So they started to work as an assistant director. They started to be from one movie to another movie, and I have friends of them who did their first films when they become 55 years old. It's not the perfect age to make your first film. Right. And the second big mistake is, many of my friends, because there was this time we were very poor. That doesn't mean that we are very rich now. But in order to survive, many friends started to shoot publicities, advertising. Okay. 1 time, 2 time, I did this 1 time, and that was it. You start to lose your taste of cinema. And I have many friends, their first films are much better comparing to their last films, because doing this advertising all the time is really destroying your taste of cinema. So what I did for surviving, and this is something that we can do the transition to the script and the idea of one film and a script, I started to shoot cheap documentary movies. Because documentary cinema, it's a cinema. It's not advertising, it's not working as assistant director, and I really love the magic of making documentary cinema. To travel a lot, to meet real people, to become friends with them, to spend months with these people before the starting of the shooting period, in order to become so close with them. So when the shooting of period starts, for them the presence of the camera is already something normal. So I started to shoot documentary films. Today we will show one of them, and I started to learn to go out of my balloon in Sofia, to travel in Bulgaria, to go to a small village to see what is the real life, what is happening outside of my balloon. And I discovered that outside of my balloon of friends and everything, there is the real world. And this real world is full of stories. And these stories, they are perfect for the cinema. And I started to use things, stories, heroes from my documentary film in order to create my scripts for my feature films. And of course, this was combined with something that I think also is very important. I told you about my producers. They told me you read a lot of books, but I think it's really important to read a lot of books. Not only autobiography of the filmmakers, to read novels, because this is something that I'm fighting with my two kids for reading books, because this is the only way to train your imagination. You read a text and you imagine pictures, you imagine stories. There is no other way to train this muscle of the imagination of your head. And also the third thing that I really love to read is analysis, serious analysis, very often not the very officials and political correct analysis of today's society. What is happening today? What is the direction of our society? What is our future, etc. So all this is creating somehow my direction of where I'm building my script. So I will talk about the film The Judgement that we will show because time is running. We will show now a short 5 minutes episode from The Judgement. This film, The Judgement, was created because I spent years in the area of the Bulgarian-Turkish border. I spent years there shooting few documentaries. So all the stories that I collected during the shooting of this documentary movie, we used to create the script of The Judgement. Because we are talking about cinematic language, I will show you a monologue that is one shot. This is a very important part of the movie when the main hero is talking about his son, about what the trauma that he had during the communism. We shot this episode in many shots. We have close-ups, we have travelings, we have large plan, etc. But finally on the editing you will see we decide to keep only one shot, except from the beginning. And this is also connection with other very important law for me of the cinema. And this law is less is more in the cinematic language. And I started more and more in my films to have less editing, to have less or no music. If you can show something with less cinematic language, from my point of view, it's better, it's stronger, and you are better director. So let's see these 5 minutes from the Judgement. This was a film that I started to work really months before the shooting with the actors. We will talk about this when we talk about the rehearsals, if we have time. So during the rehearsals, we work a lot on this episode, and this episode that was really very difficult. It happens from the first shot. We did second shot just to be sure, because still it was 35 millimeters, but the actor, he did it in the first shot. So, again, reading the books. It was from Miloš Forman autobiography. He said that the casting, choosing the actor he created a law. So for the main role, to look for the actor whose face, way of staying on screen is total opposite to the character. And this gives the pleasure to the audience for a feature film almost 2 hours long, slowly to discover his reality under this external picture. So I tried this with this actor, Asem Blatechki is his name. I told you, macho, lover, etc. And slowly by slowly, the audience of the movie discovered that he's a broken man from everything that happens before with him. And also the other thing is when you choose a small episodic characters, because they have 5, 3, 6 minutes appearance on the screen, the audience doesn't have time to enter deep in their characters. So if you need someone who looks like a hero, you must find someone who will play hero to looks like a hero, etc. So to not lose time. So every time, the next step is the casting. Every time I'm doing a very serious casting of the actors. First, we are doing casting. Everyone is coming. We sent them a few weeks ago the text. He played in front of the camera. After we do a small selection, they played between them like here. We did when we choose 3 candidates for the father and also 3 candidates for the son. We did something like, we call this like a champion league. Everyone against everyone to see if there is a chemistry between these people. Of course, again, I will tell you another something like a rule for me, again from the books. I never watch my actors. Never. In the casting, in the rehearsals, in the shooting, I watch the monitor. Because when I'm watching, if we are shooting here in this room and I'm sitting there watching my actors, I'm not doing cinema, I'm doing theater. Because we are human beings, we are friends, and between us there is a relation. And when we sit in the same room, there is relation between us. If I shoot in this hall, I want my monitor to be outside and watch the screen that will watch the audience and to listen on the headphones. This what will hear the audience. So I'm doing this during the casting, and also I'm doing this during the rehearsals. So the next very important part of my way of making, but it's not my way. It's the way that I'm working. Is that I'm doing a very long period of rehearsals, months. And this is a period where we rewrite the script together with the actors. Of course, the script usually I develop years. Usually we are doing something like 10, 11, 12 version of the script. For every of my films, the script were developed in some important European script writing programs, like Mediterranean Film Institute in Greece, like Torino Film Labs, etc. This is really something that I think it's very useful. It's very good for the movie. You receive feedback from people who are outside your culture, and this is also very important. So usually developing a script is taking us few years, very strong work with many different drafts. So when we start the rehearsals, I present this script like a chance to my actors to do something good for us, for all of us, to make a good film, and for them to make a good roles. And I can say that until now, all the leading actors from my movie, they receive a lot of hours for their roles. And so we start the rehearsals. The basic idea is first to cut the dialogue at least on a half. At least on a half, to erase the dialogue. Always to find a cinematic, if we can find a cinematic way to say something instead of dialogue, I'm the most happy director in the world. And also I'm inviting the actors to become like co-writers. We discuss the characters, we change the dialogue, we add a new episodes, a new lines of the story, and this is a process that is spending really months. Also during these months, if the shooting of the film is somewhere out of Sofia, we are going together with the actors to see the locations in the middle of the rehearsal period, because when they see the real locations, it's a magic. In one moment, this text that is only the script, some papers, they see the real location, they see the real place. And when with this actor that you saw now, Assembler Techki, we went during the rehearsals to see the locations, and we show him his house in one village near to the town of Ivailovgrad. And the house was in a process of preparation for the shootings. The art director were working there, and we had also for this night, because we went there for a few nights, we had rooms in the hotel of Ivailovgrad. When Asen saw his house, he said, "I will not sleep in the hotel. I want to sleep in my house. I want to film my house." So all of us, we were in the hotel. He was sleeping in his house because he wanted to become the guy from the movie and forget that he is Assembler Techki. What we do if we shoot in Sofia, like now I will show you part of the movie Directions that we shot entirely in Sofia. It was a low-budget film that we shot in 11 days during the night in Sofia. So when the shooting is Sofia, we do rehearsals during the day. After the end of the rehearsals, together with the actors and my director of photography, we are going in the real location, and with a small camera, we are doing something like rehearsal on the place, on the location. And with the two next movies, Directions and Rounds, we did the entire rehearsal shooting of all the scene of the movie. And even our editor, she did the editing of these rehearsal shootings. And before the main shooting of the film, we had 1 hour, 45 minutes, like a test movie. And we saw our mistakes. And we changed many things in the script. So it was very helpful for all of us. We started from the beginning for the first film to make a very precise storyboard, but the next step was to do something like a pre-shoot of every episode and to make editing of this pre-shoot in order to be more prepared for the shooting. Of course, when you don't have money, I told you the next two movies were extremely low budget. It is really very important to spend a lot of time in rehearsals and preparation. And when the moment of the shooting came, to be very well prepared. So months of rehearsals, months of pre-shootings, months of rewriting the script together with the actors and also with the DOP, because when you see these pre-shootings, you can see many things that you can change. And the result of this is when we start the shooting and when someone new it's coming for the shooting of my movie for the first time, all of them, they are very shocked. Why nobody is screaming on your shootings? Why there is no scandals? Why the people are smiling? Why there is so much anecdotes? Why is so good atmosphere? Because we did our job before the shooting. And also the shooting, when you are prepared, the shooting is a pleasure. The shooting is the most fantastic period of the preparation of a movie. And also something also very important, of course, from my point of view, when you do your homework, when you do everything about your preparation before the shooting, during the shooting, you feel very well because you are prepared, you know what to do. And when you feel good, when you feel relaxed, you are in the best mood for something that is very important, improvisations. Because when you are not prepared, when you are nervous, you cannot invent any improvisation. And also when you have always where to return and you feel safe to try something new. And in the movies, very often we have improvisation that are created during the shooting because we did the huge preparation before. So I will show you from Directions. It's about 6 stories in 6 taxi cabs in Sofia. We had many consultant taxi driver. We spent months with them. And also every one of this was also part of the rehearsal. Every one of my actor has his own taxi driver, like a consultant. And they spent months together. And still they see each other, they drink coffee or other drinks together with their taxi driver consultant. So let's see the next one. So I wanted to show you this episode because of three things. First, somehow we started, because every film is teamwork with my director of photography, with my actors, etc. We started to look somehow for a more pure and clear cinematic way of expression. Of course, there was the budget reasons, low budget films. It was a decision that I took to make more often my films, to make more cheap films. So that's why we choose a movie that is every episode is one shot, a lot of rehearsal, a lot of preparation, but 11 nights of shooting. And we had a movie, and this movie was selected in Cannes in un certain regard. And the other thing was without music, because if you can show enough emotions, you don't need in a set moment to have some set strings or piano behind, or if you need to make a funny moment to put some joyful music behind. So this was something that was new and it was interesting for us. So somehow we are trying with every new film to be something like a challenge for all of us. And somehow there is a huge difference between this movie and the two next films that we called a trilogy. The film Directions that you saw now this episode, the next one Rounds about taxi drivers, policemen, sorry, and the third one about the retired people in Bulgaria, Blagas Lessons. We started to do something like a picture of today society in Bulgaria, because already 3 decades spent after the falling of the communism in Bulgaria. The first 15 years of these 30 years, we did really a lot of film. I'm not talking only for me, but also for many of my colleagues. We did a lot of films telling how bad was during the communism and how this totalitarian past is influencing our present. But okay, this was okay for the first 5 years, for the first 10 years, the first 15 years, but time is running and the problems in my country are becoming more and more serious. Somehow we lost 1/3 of the population without a war. The economic situation, it's not brilliant. We have a huge inequality, social inequality. That for me is one of the reasons for many bad things that are happening in my country. We have a collapse in the education. I'm paying a lot of money because the public education system is in a very bad situation. So I pay a lot of money for my 2 kids to go to the private schools. So we started to do this transition from the bad past that is influencing our present to the bad present. And what we can diagnostic, maybe because of my past as a doctor, what we can diagnose in this society, because when I was student in the medical university in Sofia, our professor told us that the best treatment starts with the right diagnosis. So we are trying with the last 3 films and also with my documentary films, we are trying to do something like a diagnosis of the today's society. And Bulgaria, we already joke about this. There is good stories for cinema in every corner. I don't know about salvation, but there are many stories that are great for cinema. A lot of stories about inequality, about today problems, about poor people, etc. So we started to work in this field, in this direction. And I think is for me this is the most the best direction for a filmmaker to be authentic, to collect a lot of real stories, to build the scripts from the real stories, and to make something that is unique, authentic, and real. And very often these real and authentic stories, they are understandable all around the world. I remember when this movie Directions was selected in Cannes. It's 6 stories in 6 taxi cabs in one night in Sofia. And 6 typical Bulgarian stories. We spent months of meeting taxi driver in Sofia to collect real stories. And on the base of this real story, we built our script. And I asked the director of Cannes, Thierry Fremont, for me, I told him it's very important why you selected our movie what was the main reason that you selected our movie for Cannes, for Un Certain Regard. And he told me that, you know, Stephan, your film is 6 stories in 6 taxi cab in Sofia, but all these 6 stories can happen in every European capital. So somehow our Bulgarian stories, if they are authentic, they are not so unique, because the inequality and all these problems, they are happening all around the world. So this was important transition from the Judgement to the recent films. We have 10 more minutes. Just to see if I forgot, I'm trying many things to say. Very important thing about the editing, I already mentioned this. We are doing editing during the movie. It's tough because we have 12 hours of shooting. After these 12 hours of shooting, I spent 2 hours in the editing room watching the already edited episode from yesterday. My editor is where we are shooting, in the same. If we are not in Sofia, she's in the hotel in the town where we shoot. Because I cannot imagine not to edit already, not to edit during the shooting. To finish I cannot imagine to finish the film and to start the shooting from this moment. It's very important when I'm doing the shooting to see what is happening. And because we are on the location, we are with the same actor, if something is going wrong, if I see that something is not like we imagine, we still can correct this. We can reshoot the episode the next day if we see that there is something that is not good. And also very often our editor, she is sending us message in the middle of the night. I need this and this shot. Put them in the schedule for the next day. But this is our normal way of working. And so when we finish the shooting, the film is already almost edited, and after we start the fine tuning. And one more advice that always I'm giving to my student: never edit alone your movie. You need someone else, someone who is thinking together with you. And we are fighting a lot with my editor. She is a big friend of mine. We joke with her that we are working from the ending of the last century. And this is true. And like an anecdote, I will tell you that when we did the Judgement, because we had some German financing, and somehow for the German it was important that we do some part, 1 week of the editing to do in Germany. This is completely out of any logic, to take the hard disk, hard drive with the edit and to go and to sit in a computer in Germany. But they wanted that the people from the font come to see us that we are editing and to say wunderbar, everything is fine. So we started to edit in a German studio. There was many small studios in one studio with some doors between them, and of course on the fifth minute of our work we started to fight with her, but to fight in our way. I am leaving, I will not ever continue to it, you are stupid, I will do this never. We started in our way. So in one moment we see all the Germans from the studio ready to call the police, ambulance, etc. And we just explained them that this is our way. I need something to fight with him. Not I can do the editing by myself. I can press the button and make the editing. This is not. But I need someone who is creating ideas, who is proposing things, and that's why never do the editing alone. So. Still we have, I think, let's check my notes. Many things I missed, but how to talk about this in this time. So maybe we have something like 5 minutes questions. But many before, during the pressure. Usually with my actors, because we do a lot of work before, usually we are not doing not more than 3 or 5 takes.
Did you do any hidden cuts in these long takes? Ever?
Here, no. Here, no. But you will see Blaga's lessons in few days, and we have a very long shot, 8 minutes. Is the moment of the phones come. So we are with the actress, 8 minutes in her apartment. All the time she is talking by the phone. And it's a very difficult from actor point of view episode to play this scam, how it's happening, and at the end she's going on the balcony and she throw the money and the camera jump with the money down to the ground. So we took the decision that the first 8 minutes it's very difficult from actor point of view, and the second it's less than 1 minute when she put the money through the balcony. It's very difficult from technical point of view. We took the decision in this, you will see in the movie, in this shot to make this hidden cut when she is opening the door of the balcony. Because if we have a very good actor playing at the first 8 minutes, not to destroy this with some stupid technical problem in the last moment. So this is the moment when we did this. But in episode like this, no. And I can tell you that when we shot the episode, it was a discovery for me that this is also great for the actors to make long shots, because they can really build their role in a natural way.
But is it improvised, or they learn strictly lines?
The period of rehearsals is the period of improvisation, 99%. During the rehearsal, we can try everything. Later, when we shoot a movie in this way, with one shot. We do very small improvisation because the director of photography, he knows, he has his own script. He knows in which sentence to turn the camera to this person or to the other. So everything is very well coordinated with the entire crew. So of course there is some small moment where there is improvisation, but in general it's more difficult.
Thank you.
You mentioned some books about film. Are there any you would suggest to read?
All of the great movie directors, but for me, I put the autobiographical book of Miloš Forman of the first place. Because really this is a book that you learn a lot about what is cinema and how to make it. Miloš Forman.
Sir, so how did you manage the light in the taxi scene? Like that was a continuous shot, and camera was facing first to the driver and then to the customer. Then how did you manage the light in that scene?
The light was the basic idea was to use a minimal light. So we had some small dimmer lights in the taxi cab that was hidden. And also we choose streets with more lights. That in some neighborhoods of Sofia, this is not very easy.
So it is inevitable to have some problems while shooting. In your experience, what was the hardest problem to solve in general?
In general, always is the financing of the movie and bureaucracy in the film funding institution. This is something that we are dealing all the time. And the bad thing is that this is taking a lot of your energy to deal with this kind of things. The rest, I think, is our challenge. It's on our control. The most important thing is because the movie become real with the actors, to choose the right actors. Because one not very good chosen actor can destroy all your movie. So you must be very careful. You must watch all the previous films of this actor that you are thinking. Also to make a lot of researches. That's why you have a lot of friends, also directors, to call them, to meet them, to ask your colleague and friend director, listen, in this film you work with this actor, how is your experience, how you work with him, etc. Really, the choice of the actors is very important. Of course, the director of the photography, because he's making the movie. Again, a lot of research, a lot of watching of movie, etc. That's why I'm working with the same director of the photography already 4 or 5 films. Because I found someone that really it's great to work with him. So the crew.
Thank you.
I loved when I was a student, I loved to watch and to make short films, and I love to watch. And I'm using I have something like collection of 100 short films that I'm using during my classes in the university where I'm teaching. The short film is something that is great. It's also very different than comparing with the feature film. Somehow it's very difficult to make in a short time. But as I told you, this is the best way for students to learn the language. And it's much better to make 10 3 minutes or 2 minutes long short film instead of 1 30 minutes film, because in your CV the film is a film, and also it's much more easier if you have 3 minutes short film to find place in a international student film festival for 3 minutes film instead of 30 minutes film. So short film is something really great. And in Bulgaria, in the world, there is cinemas that are presenting only short films. This is something that I miss a lot in Bulgaria. I don't know how it is in Slovenia. Yeah, festival, of course. I don't know. Maybe I might discuss this with my psychotherapist. Maybe it's part of my grandomania. I don't know. But it's a good question.
Hi, and thank you for your masterclass. It was very inspirational. You talked about editing on set. What does this mean financial, like budget-wise? Do you need much more money to do it like this? No?
We pay one more room for my editor, and that's it. She's coming on stage. She's coming in the town where we shoot the movie. We pay for her room, and she's with her computer in the room, and she receives every day the material.
And she gets the same fee as if she would edit the film afterwards.
Yes, she has a fee that is for the entire film.
Okay.
But she is also very, she like a lot this way of working, because it's much more, somehow the results show that it's very successful.
And she gets to fight with you, which is...
She loves to do this.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Stephan. So the coffee pause is scheduled now for 10 minutes, and we come back at 12 punktlich. And Professor Katja Mihurko, and researcher, will make an introduction to Stephan's film, documentary film, The Town of Badante Women. So, 10 minutes. Thank you.
I will talk a little bit about my documentary filmmaking. I told you that I started to make documentaries because of the long waiting for financing for my feature films. And also it was a good way not to forget how to make cinema, because making documentary cinema, it's a filmmaking again. And it's a completely different charm, let's say. In the documentary movie, the charm is to catch the reality. And when you make a feature film, the charm is to create the reality. So I love both of them. So every documentary film starts with researches. So the main question is to be open and to be interested and to be curious about everything that is happening in your country. To read a lot of articles, to read news, to read what it's described in the social media, to look for subject. And I told you that Bulgaria, as a country with a lot of problems, is a very good place for a filmmaker, because it's full of stories that deserve to be to be made on films, feature or documentary. So this process starts with finding something, or very often to hear something from a friend about something that is happening. And after starts a long process that takes months to look for the people, to find these people, to become close with these people. Usually in Bulgaria, the way how to become close with someone is happening usually on the table, with some food, with some drinks, with some time spent together. So it's really important that you become really friends with your future characters. And I can say now that really I had many, not so many, but I don't know how much, maybe 8, 9 documentary films that I did already. So I'm very close friends with all the heroes of my films. I can give you an example. My last documentary film, it's called Life from Life. It's about the problems with donations of organs and transplantations in Bulgaria. And one of the main hero of this movie is Georgi Peev, who is Bulgarian with transplanted heart and kidney, and one professor from a hospital of Varna, who is donation coordinator. So with these two people, the last few years we spent together, we celebrate together New Year, we are visiting each other very often. I have a small house in the mountain, they are coming very often to see me there. So somehow there is no border. You must give to these people who will become the heroes of your documentary films all your friendship, and to be honest to them. And after this, you can expect from there the same, to be real in your movie. So this is, of course, the most important part of the preparation of the movie. Also here is very important to say that, as I told you about the process of preparing a feature film projects, there is a lot of good European documentary film programs like DocuWeb, like Eurodoc, etc. There are really a lot of them where you can go, you can develop your project of documentary film. You can receive help from script doctors, from producers, from institutions, and also you can more easily finance your project, because documentary project is much more cheaper comparing to feature film. But of course, you need also money to creating this. So again, it's a process that at least took 1 year, even more very often. But it's comparing to 8 years waiting for for financing for a feature film. It's much shorter, of course. So this is a process that very often you start shooting, because for a documentary film, the good thing is that you don't need a lot of money, you don't need a lot of crew. Very often we start the shooting before having the financing. You need a camera, you need a microphone, and you can shoot yourself. So if something very important is happening, go and shoot it, because after maybe this will take place in your movie. So in almost all of the films, we started to shoot something important much earlier before the financing of the movie. And also the other thing that is very helpful for preparing your documentary project If you have already some shooting, you can edit with this shooting some small, like 5 minutes presentation of your documentary film project, and you can use this in a very helpful way for the financing of the documentary film project. The best place for present projects for documentary films is the forum. It's part of the International Documentary Film Festival Amsterdam, and really in this place, if your project is selected, you can find financing for your movie for 5 minutes. If you have a strong pitch, if you have a good video like presentation of your movie, you sit in the place like this, you have all the commission editors from the biggest institution and televisions like Arte, ZDF, etc. And after your presentation, it's totally possible that one raise his hand. We will participate with 100,000 euros. The other said, we will put this money and this money. So really you can finance your movie in 5 minutes. So let's turn to the Badante. So the process, the title of the movie is The Town of Badante Women. So everything started by an article of a Bulgarian journalist about what is happening in the northwest of Bulgaria. And the article was, I think, in 2007, 2008. We shot the film in 2009. So the article was about that many villages and towns in this area, there is the women disappears. And we have towns mainly with men taking care of the kids. These kids have problems in schools, they have problems with the communication, because they are growing in a very strange family place. The fathers are not working. The women are working in Italy as a badante, taking care of old and sick people. The fathers are receiving money 1 time per month. Many families are already broken because these women has a new life in Italy. So this was a very interesting phenomena, and I met her, we started to talk, I went to these places in the northwest, and it was very easy when you walk in the street of the town to see in which house there is someone in Italy. The house is renovated, there is a new windows. So this was a sign that 99% this woman is not there. So I spent months in this town. I met many people, we became friends, and of course you will see in the movie, always when I'm making a documentary film, I'm very interested, and this exists also in other documentaries movie. Always I'm not looking only about the problem, the main problem in the film, but I'm also interested what is happening around this. And we found this orchestra that is you will see in the movie, because in this part of Bulgaria there is a tradition about this, every village to have this kind of orchestra, and the people who were in this orchestra, they are also connected with Badante story, because you will see in the movie. So somehow I wanted this kind of very realistic movie not to have a written music by a composer, especially about this movie. I wanted that the music is coming from the people in this town, And with this orchestra, with this connection, somehow I think we found a very good connection between these two things, and we had also music in the movie, and also we did something that we like a lot. We and the people from the orchestra, because you will see that most of them they are not very young people, and we spent one day in the local hall doing recording of their entire music, and we put their music on the CD, and it was like a present from us to this orchestra that they received their music on the CD. So somehow this was something that we did and we like it a lot. So this is the story of Badante. The film provoked many discussions in Bulgaria. This was the basic idea for every of my films, documentary and features. And somehow, you know, life is something very challenging. 10 years after this, my father was very ill. My father was with Alzheimer, and it was a very difficult period for me. And because I had 2 kids, we were living in the same street, but somehow it was important to try to deal with life from my side. So we took a woman for the same town to take care of my father. And she became really part of our family. So somehow until the death of my father, somehow the Badante came again in my life from completely different point, 10 years after the shooting of the movie. So enjoy the film and I will come back.
It's not finished yet. Our special guest director, Stephan, is coming in a few minutes. But I would use this time, these few minutes also to kindly invite you to stay with us. It's going to be at 3 o'clock. A very interesting lecture where we will get to know better Vittoria and Mako Saiko. And not only stay with us, also at 5 o'clock, very interesting guest from Armenia, Haratiun Hachatrian, it's coming. And we have a beautiful evening program also at 8 o'clock. It's going to be screened, are going to be screened short films from First Crossings in the competition. And we add the evening with another film by Stephan Komandarev. So very intensive cinema gathering together. And we will end the day, mostly welcome all of you to join us in this old street, Via Rastello, Rastel, Hisha Kreiner, where it's going to be time to maybe discuss about all emotions and things that we have learned and heard and seen during this intensive day. So stay with us, and all of you who are really interested to see the newest film, the Slovenian premiere of Blaga's Lesson, don't forget to make your reservation for the evening award that is going to be held in Slovenian part in Nova Gorica in the National Theatre tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So this was EPP moment, and I will kindly invite on the stage both, first of all, maybe our special guest, Dr. Ponish, who will make an interesting bridge to the topic that we have been seeing in the film Badante. I don't know how many of you, I suppose the students who are coming from abroad don't know this very important and interesting story of the women who have left their families in the late 19th century. They have been home here in our valley, and they called Alexandrinke. This, I think, is going to be very interesting bridge to discuss how close and how these topics are still relevant and are unfortunately repeating. So, Mrs. Ponish, welcome.
Okay. I prepared a presentation, but first, thank you for inviting me, thank you for having me here. It is really such an honor and pleasure to be here with you. Why it is also pleasure, why it is honor, you can imagine, because you have this great director with you, but pleasure is also because I studied also at the Academy for Film, Television, Theater and Radio, I think, so this is also my field, and I'm always happy when I'm again in this, these groups, these teams which work in this field. So it was planned that we start first with this presentation. So this is why I called it From Alexandrinke to Badante Women. It's a very nice and very sad, actually, also story, and who were Alexandrinke, because all these women are now dead. So I prepared really this, I would call it Alexandrinke in a nutshell. So who were they and what does this name mean? I have to say that they called themselves actually Leshandrinke, because this is in dialect they call themselves in this way, but today of course we call them in this research and I mean in public discourse we call them Alexandrinke. So as you can see, this is not a new phenomenon. As Matea already mentioned, mostly it took place in the second half of the 19th century and in the first half of the 20th. So they were young women, as you can see, they were widows, they were wives, they were mothers. And as already also mentioned, they sought their employment in Egyptian cities. And perhaps you wonder why Egypt, why this quite far land. This has certain reasons, and of course why also these women from Gorizia region, from Vipava Valley, because they worked in Trieste and they went to Egypt with their mostly Italian employers. And why Egypt? Because in the second half of the 19th century, Egypt really flourished. It happened after the construction of the Suez Canal, and the last Alexandrinke left after the end of the monarchy. So many stayed there until, let's say, 1952, 54. They stayed for a long time, so I think now you can already make some comparisons to what you have seen just in the documentary. So they stay for at least 3 years. Perhaps you wonder why so long, because otherwise the ticket would be too expensive. So they have to earn money, and only after 3 years this actually could then happen. And many of them left also later, in the interwar period, because there was this special situation. I think you are all familiar with fascism and what it meant for people in this region, this politics of Mussolini. So why did they leave? Mostly, as I already mentioned, because of these socio-economical needs. The families simply needed more money for simply to survive in these hard times of hardship and crisis. But this was not the only reason. We have to emphasize that many of them really left because they need to go, because they had to go. But young women, some of them went because, you know, this was still the time where parents decided whom you may marry or whom not. So they simply went there to earn their money for the dowry, as that was the practice then, or simply to gain new experiences. So we have to emphasize that there was not just this need, but also wish to experience something new. So not just these sad and tragic reasons and also stories connected with this. And what did they do there in Orient? They were servants, they were nannies, and this was a very important part of their jobs. They were vet nurses, but I have to emphasize now that there was just, let's say, around 1/4. They were not all vet nurses, although the discourse about them is often just, you know, exposing this fact that they were vet nurses. And even more interesting, they were Madame de Compagnie. I don't know if you know what that meant. So they were, you know, simply with, let's say, with queens, with women from nobility. They lived together, they read to them, they traveled together, so they kept company for them, with them. And this is also important. I think that here you can also compare it to the situation in the documentary. It was very important what they did before they left. So it was very important that they organized family life, and they did. Most of them did it very well. So there were friends, there were family members, there were grandmothers, there were, I don't know, cousins, sisters, and these persons, and of course fathers, but I would like to emphasize that there were not just fathers, also other members of the family, and the children were mostly really well taken care of. Not all the children, but not all the children were abandoned. I think this is very important that we mention and stress all the time. How did they live in Egypt? I think this is also interesting. They worked hard. You know, it's completely clear that it was a hard life, that they have to earn this money. But they were most of them, or majority of them, were well paid. This is also the reason why they left for Egypt, because they needed money, and these jobs were very well paid. And the situation in these families, I would like to hear perhaps more how is now in Italy for these Badante women, but in many families they were treated, especially if they were nannies, they were treated like a member of the family. So they traveled together because these families left in summer. It was hot, so they left for Europe and they traveled with them. So they learned a lot. They gained so many new experiences about life, well, everywhere actually. And what is also, I think, I noticed in this documentary about Badante women, they connected to these children they took care of. So these bonds were very, very tight. They spoke about these children when they came home. They had contacts also after they were again here in Gorizia. So these bonds were very strong. So like, you know, for many of them, these were their children. And for many of children, these were actually their mothers. So when they left, it was really very, very hard also for those children in Egypt, because they suddenly, you know, there was this person, this warm person who took care for them, suddenly disappeared. And it was a trauma for many of them. How they spent time, I think this is also interesting, because there was also a network of organizations, especially from the Catholic Church, community centers where they could spend their free time. And yeah, I think this is why I really wanted that you see the photos, the images of them, they were then, really emancipated. They felt that they did something, that they earned their own money, even if they sent most of it to Gorizia again, but they did it. And I think this is also in this documentary very, very nicely shown, how proud this woman is when she can say, yes, I earned this money. So, so we see these proud, smiling women who found themselves in these big cities and experienced completely new life. And of course, they wrote letters, and their families, their friends here in Gorizia could also learn about life somewhere far, far away. And these letters are really important, and in some project some years ago, we published this book with letters of a woman and a man, Alexandrinka, and her husband, who was really ideal husband, who really took care for their daughter. And it's a very nice example of how also men could contribute it to this situation in a very positive way. How was in the home village? Because this is actually the content, isn't it, of the documentary. You have seen again what you watched. It's this gender paradox. Suddenly, men who never in this patriarchal society took care of children, did some housework. Many of them they did, and if they did it and had actually no big problems with it, then the families actually had normal life. So it really depended on the father, how he could cope with this situation. So if he was not depressive, if he did not drink, if there was no alcoholism in the family, then it was not so traumatic in those families where the situation was different. So we have to say some children were really abandoned. There were sad stories, there were sad, tragic stories. And they, of course, meet their mothers, they missed caressing, even if they actually took care of them. And what I must really here also emphasize, the problem was at home that Catholic Church, although I mentioned this positive what they did in Egypt, on the other hand, here in Slovenia, there was a very, very negative discourse about what happened there. It was the priests told this in the churches, and also the press. So it's not just like, something that we can blame Catholic Church. It was on both sides, but stronger, really stronger in the Catholic Church. So it was, what do they do there? Are they prostitutes? How is it possible that they earn so much money? So they must do something, what is not usual. And it was very difficult for women there, because in these letters it came again and again. Men were jealous, they were in doubts what happened there, and it was very difficult. And I think this photo where the family, the picture of the photo of the family, father with children, and then the second photo where they put the photograph of the mother is really very, actually tells us a lot about how they felt and how difficult it was for all of them, not just for men, not just for women, not just for children, but actually for all who were involved in this. After returning home, it was also very difficult. This discourse, negative, they were faced with it. They couldn't speak about it in the public, so they brought many objects. These are objects which you can see. They talk about it with other Alexandrinke, but it was actually for a long time a taboo topic in Slovenian public discourse, in the Slovenian history, in Slovenian migration studies. So many of them, again, not all, but many of them had really a lot of difficulties with when they were back again. So restoring bonds with children, with their own children, was sometimes really very, very hard. And they were rejected as strangers. So I think I have to conclude now slowly, but I would still like to mention, and perhaps we can then speak about this discourse in Bulgaria, because I'm very interested how this really ambivalent discourse was in the Slovenian public, that on one side there was this story about Alexandrinke, their sacrifice, their suffering, and on the other just, you know, these children who were abandoned. So nothing positive. And if you look at this cover of the novel about, which is a story of 3 Alexandrinke, you see that there are just children and a breast. So you see where the focus is, not on women, but on children. So but later, of course, with the research, this discourse of emancipation, this, I would say, feminist discourse, that it was not just suffering, it was not just sacrifice, but that they gained a lot in these multicultural spaces, came up. So I would not go into more details. As you can see, there were books, there was even a documentary in 2011, which I think many of you have seen. And I actually wanted to end with, or to conclude with 2 quotes of my colleague, my very esteemed and dear colleague, Professor Mirjam Milharčič-Kladnik, because she is the editor of this book in English. So if you want to learn more about Alexandrinke, this is an excellent book. And one of it is how special this discourse is. You can read, I will not read it now aloud, because this is a discourse about mothers. And I think this is also something that connects these both phenomenon. It's not just that these are women, but they are mothers. So this is one problem, and I would like to conclude with the second. It's about feelings. How many feelings are involved in this phenomenon, in this discourse? And as I watched the documentary, I simply notice all these feelings that Mirjam Milharčič writes about. I found them all also in this excellent, wonderful, as I think we all agree, documentary. So I hope I have been not too long, but it's difficult to say such a rich story in 10 minutes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Mihurko. It was very important to share with you, maybe with new generation that doesn't know the history of this region. I should also add that was filmed a very beautiful documentary film called Alexandrinke by Metod Pevec, who is telling all this story. And there is another very important woman who actually was the pioneer of doing the research and taking notes of this story. It's Dorica Makuc. It was on the slides, another very important woman who started to talk about this phenomena when nobody else was really interested. As you said, it was very negative opinion in the public, and mostly of all really painful experience in the families. I also come from one of these families, and in my hometown, Prvačina, I think every second house had at least one Alexandrinka, and we have now a museum in this small village, Prvačina, who is trying to take care about this memory, and yeah, I believe you will have more opportunity to get more about this story. But maybe it's time also to re-invite Stephan to us. And I will immediately provoke you. Never heard about Alexandrinke, but I suppose this sounds very similar to the experience of Badante.
Of course, now. So of course it's similar because it's generally almost the same phenomena. I suppose that this happens here in this area when there is a lot of, when it's very poor time for the population. So again, the reasons are the same. A huge, big level of inequality, poor population, question of surviving. I remember that very often the beginning of Badante, career of one woman, started with a bank loan or credit. So very often a bank loan for, in Bulgaria we have a tradition when a kid finishes his education on 18 years old and he becomes 18 years old, to make a big celebration. And very often people are taking loan from the bank from this celebration, and in one moment they realize that they cannot pay it. So this is the beginning to go to work in Italy because there is no other choice, because there is a big unemployment in this area. This is the poorest area in Bulgaria and officially in the European Union. I'm not proud of this, of course. So again, the genesis is the same finally. Of course, there is no letters today. There is Skype and Viber, the modern technology. I don't think that there is some, I'm talking about today Bulgaria, there is no, maybe this exists, but not, it is not so strong, this phenomena of victimization or aggression to this woman, because everyone knows why they are going this, and almost every second woman is doing this, especially in this area. But of course the children, very often they are the problem, because I spoke with many teachers from the local school, and they told me that these children very often their real parents are the grandparents, because the mother is somewhere in Italy, the father is waiting the money from, and after he starts to drink. And the grandparents, they don't have enough authority to these kids, the authorities of the parents. So these kids very often they have problems with behavior, with communication with the others, etc. So it starts like something that is continue really long. So this is what I can say in few words. So basically, it's similar.
So Stephan, I would like to ask you, because I think I understood that you keep connections with the people you make a documentary about. Did any of the women come back? Bene. No one. And it's also, what is different really, Professor Mihurko, is that as a stigma with Leshandrinke was that this man started drinking. So the family dissolved completely and kids were lost. And so here they were trying, they were sad, but they kept working, kept struggling in the town of Badante. I'm talking about men. I mean, is this a difference between a Slovenian and Bulgarian man, or?
No, I don't think so, because we wanted to show all the different case that is happening. So we have really men that are really trying their best to their kids, and of course we have also the other. And this woman, they didn't return. They stayed there. Some of them are coming back every year. Some of them stopped to coming back. They have a new life, a new families, etc. Some of the men also found new women. So this is something that really influenced their family life. But again, the basic thing is, what is the reason? If there was a change in Bulgaria in this area, if there was a way to find, to spend, to earn your money in a more way with dignity, if this was not the place with the biggest unemployment in Bulgaria, maybe it was possible to have this process of they returning home, but it's still the most poor area, so there is no big perspective. People are leaving this place more and more. Yes, there is case like this. They are taking children, they are financing their university studies, etc. This is something that is happening, yes.
If I just may add, Patricia, I think that we should not forget that there are many good stories, positive stories about men, you know, because really some of men really, they were excellent fathers, and really their families, although it was very difficult, and it was, you have to imagine, more than 100 years in some cases ago. So the society here, this was countryside, was really, really patriarchal, and they did it very well. So there were good examples, not just, you know, all fathers drinking. Some of them really
I know
very
the
well
examples
their
from
job.
my village of
Yeah.
Skrilje, and also Mateas from Provačna. Maybe our mothers were telling only the bad ones,
Yeah,
and now we are.
yeah. But here really,
oral history of my village.
from these letters, you can see really how it can be also different, not just so.
And this, the little girl that you saw that the film started, she is now a student in Italy. I don't know what exactly, but
I remember, well, that book is full of letters of my grandmother and grandfather. And it was a positive story. It's full of love. But I remember when I was a kid and we were growing up with a little boy that was my sister and I we thought he was our cousin or something, but he's far away, so we don't know him. But actually, he was older than our parents. But he was always a member of the family. My grandmother never forgot about him. So he was kind of, but also a very important thing, I think, that in that time, my grandmother said that if women went there because they had control, because if mostly if men left, they left maybe to South America, and so they never came back, and they could come back. So a lot of women came back. Of course, it really took a long time, like many generations actually of Alexandrinke. So there are. It's really good to see also the film of Metod Pevec, but yeah, you have a lot of of maybe this is not yet so long. That's why, and also really, yeah, there are other times, but women were thinking about why to go and how to deal with situation. That was quite a strong thing.
I actually was also curious about something, because there is a question also not only of social class, but also in the case of the Alexandrinke women, women who go to Egypt to serve the colonial power, basically. Because I saw that most of the employers are perhaps British citizens, since Britain was, or you know, or just people who are Europeans. As we know, Egypt, I think, in the 20s earned its independence from Britain. So there is also the question of race, the question of religion. I suppose that people in Egypt, white, British, or whoever, preferred to hire somebody who was white and Catholic rather than who was local and Muslim. So there is this dynamic playing out as well. And also the whole question of the metropole and the peripheries. Obviously, you know, these kind of governesses were popular in Britain for a long time, where poor women from villages would go to London, let's say, to serve as governesses. But also, it's a matter of how we perceive Europe as sort of these metropoles and peripheries, and where people from the peripheries serve the metropole. So there is this sort of geopolitical aspect to it as well, I suppose.
Yeah, if I may just comment a little bit, it's really painful when you read these novels and stories. I mean, really, literature, fiction, how much of Orientalism is in these stories. So race is certainly something which is thematized and really very present. So all this, as what you mentioned, is in this discourse about Alexandrinke. Definitely, yeah. Thank you for this.
I also want to add something, because it's existing in our movie. The problem of Europe is more and more we have this aging population. And this aging population needs care. So the women from northwest of Bulgaria are going to take care of aging population of Italy. And the question is, that is the connection with Blaga's lesson, what will happen with the aging population in Bulgaria, with the retired people in Bulgaria. So see, everything is very, very connected somehow. And every disconnection starts with the basic, with the huge inequality, with the level of poorness of the population, etc.
I'm sorry to be so rude, but I think we should slowly close this section. It's very interesting. We could continue to discuss about these topics also outside. And I'm really glad, and I would like to thank both of you that you are here with us, and that we have the opportunity to get in touch about these stories, and to reflect about all these topics, and what we can actually do for tomorrow. So it's very important that we produce films like this, that we talk about these topics, because these topics are connected with our lives and our generation that is coming behind us. Thank you very much. Help me with a beautiful applause to end this section.